The storm finally began to calm as dawn crept over the horizon, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and pink. Milo stepped outside the station for the first time in over a day. The wind had lessened, and the sand lay in uneven waves across the barren landscape. He squinted, scanning the horizon. Nothing moved, everything seemed still. But the strange events of the previous night made him uneasy. Inside, Nira had already risen. She stood near the control panel, her eyes scanning the screens. "The storm is mostly over," she said. "You should check the sensors. Something unusual is still happening." Milo frowned. "Unusual? How so?" "Energy readings," Nira replied. "The storm isn't just wind and dust. Something is interacting with it, something intelligent." Milo blinked. He had monitored readings for years and had never seen anything like it. Curious, he moved toward the control panel and started analyzing the data. The sensors had picked up strange pulses of energy, intermittent but distinct. They didn't match any natural phenomenon he knew. "You're sure these readings are real?" Milo asked, glancing at her. "Yes," Nira said simply. "They are deliberate. Someone or something is trying to communicate." "Or test you?" Milo swallowed. The idea was unsettling. Communication with unknown entities could be dangerous. Yet there was something in Nira's calm tone that made him trust her. "I'll check it," he said, and began adjusting the station's transmitter to monitor the signals more closely. Hours passed as he tried to decode the pulses. They repeated in strange patterns, almost like a language, but unlike any code he had ever seen. Milo tried different combinations, aligning frequency and timing, but the signals seemed to adapt. It was as if the storm itself was alive and aware. Meanwhile, Nira observed him quietly. "Humans have a unique ability," she said suddenly. "You can see patterns that others cannot. You can adapt and create solutions quickly. That is why you survive." Milo paused, not used to such compliments. I just do what I have to," he said modestly. "More than that." Nira replied, "You innovate, you improvise. That is rare." Her words lingered in Milo's mind as he worked. He felt a surge of determination. If the storm contained a message, he would decipher it. If there was a threat, he would face it. Human determination, he realized, was something even unknown. Forces could not ignore. By midday, Milo had made progress. He managed to isolate one repeating sequence in the signals, a series of pulses that seemed to correspond with energy fluctuations. In the desert, he called Nira over. "Look at this," he said. "It's like a pattern, a grid of pulses. But it's not complete. It repeats every few minutes." Nira studied the screen closely. "Yes, it's a test, not a message. Whoever sent this wants to see if the recipient can understand it. They are curious, intelligent." Milo felt a chill. The idea of being observed was both exciting and frightening. "Test? For what?" "That I cannot say," Nira admitted. "But you humans, you have something valuable. Intelligence, creativity, the ability to survive under harsh conditions. That makes you interesting." Milo shook his head. "I'm just one person. I can't be that important." Nira smiled faintly. "One person can make all the difference. Sometimes, one person changes everything." Milo's mind raced. The signals, the storm, Nira's presence, it all seemed connected. He wondered if her rival had something to do with these strange readings. Could she be the reason the storm behaved unusually as the day passed? Milo continued to study the pulses. He realized that the energy spikes often coincided with Nira's movements. She seemed unaffected, almost like she knew how to navigate the storm safely. Milo watched as she moved around the station, touching instruments lightly, her fingers brushing the surfaces in a precise, deliberate way every time she did. The pulses seemed to react. "Do you control these signals?" Milo asked carefully. Nira looked up at him. "Not control. Influence. I am sensitive to this energy. I can feel its patterns. Guide them slightly. But I did not create it." Milo nodded slowly, trying to understand. "Then someone else is sending them." "Yes," she said. "Something is out there, something powerful. But it is cautious, curious, like you are now. The rest of the afternoon passed with Milo and Nira working together. He adjusted instruments, recalibrated sensors, and tried different methods to interpret the signals. Nira provided guidance, explaining how the pulses might relate to environmental changes, and how to anticipate the storm's behavior. She did not give him the answers, she encouraged him to find them himself. By evening, Milo had made a breakthrough. He realized that the pulses were not random, they followed a sequence that mapped out the terrain of the desert, almost like a grid-based map being transmitted from somewhere beyond the horizon. He shared his discovery with Nira. "This is incredible," she said softly. "You figured it out. Most would have missed it. You're impressive." Milo felt a mix of pride and curiosity. Why would someone map the desert like this? And why now? During the storm, Nira hesitated. Perhaps they are planning something. Or perhaps they are watching. They want to see if humans can adapt. Milo's heart beat faster. He was used to challenges, but this was different. He was not just surviving arenas, he was part of something bigger, something unknown. The realization made him feel alive in a way he had not felt in years. As night fell, the storm finally dissipated. The desert was calm once again, the sky clear and filled with stars. Milo looked out the window, thinking about the signals, the mysterious energy, and Nira's words. "Do you think they'll come closer?" he asked. Nira turned to him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Maybe. But if they do, they will meet humans who are not afraid to face the unknown. That is what makes you strong." Milo nodded. He did not fully understand what lay ahead, but he felt a sense of determination he had never known. Whatever was sending the signals, whatever mysteries Nira carried, he would face them. Not as one person alone, but as a human, clever, brave, and unpredictable. And for the first time in a long while, Milo felt truly alive. The desert sky of Reni's darkened quickly, and Milo felt a familiar unease. The calm of the previous night had given him a false sense of security. Now, thick clouds rolled across the horizon, and gusts of wind kicked up sand that whipped against the station's reinforced walls. "Another storm," Milo muttered, adjusting the station's shields. The metal panels vibrated under the growing wind. He checked the instruments. The readings were unusual. This storm was not just weather, it carried strange energy pulses, similar to the ones they had studied yesterday. Nira stood near the control panel, her expression calm but alert. "It's stronger than before," she said, "and it's not natural. Something is amplifying the storm." Milo glanced at her. "You think someone is causing this?" Nira nodded slightly. "Yes, but I cannot say who. You will see soon." Enough. The wind picked up, rattling doors and making the small station creak. Outside, the horizon glowed with streaks of light, fast moving, small, and sharp. Milo's sensors picked them up immediately. "Objects," Milo shouted, pointing at the screen. "They're moving toward us." Nira moved closer, her eyes scanning the data. "They are scouts," she said, "from far away. They mean no harm yet, but we must be ready." Milo's heart pounded. Scouts? He had never dealt with anything like this before. They were alone on a distant desert planet, facing unknown beings with unknown technology. The thought was terrifying. Yet, in the back of his mind, he felt a spark of excitement. This was more than survival, this was a challenge. And humans were good at challenges. "Scouts of what?" Milo asked, trying to sound calm. Nira hesitated. "I cannot say everything yet, but you humans need to know that not all visitors from the stars are friendly. Some test. Some watch, some attack. These ones are just scouts. But their presence means something bigger is coming." Milo swallowed. "So, we're not safe." "Safe is a word that doesn't exist out here," Nira said softly. "But humans, you have something rare. Creativity, determination. That makes you capable." Milo didn't fully understand, but he nodded. "Then let's see what we can do." The scouts approached slowly, hovering just above the sand. They looked almost like shimmering metallic insects, with lights flickering along their thin bodies. Milo could feel the station vibrating slightly as their energy fields interacted with the storm. He tried to communicate through the station's sensors, sending signals and monitoring responses. The scouts seemed intelligent. They reacted quickly to changes in the storm, shifting positions as if studying the station. Milo realized that this was not just observation, it was a test of adaptability and strategy. "This is incredible," Milo whispered to Nira. "They're analyzing everything we do." Nira nodded. "Yes. They study potential allies or threats. Your actions now will matter more than you think." Milo felt a mix of fear and determination. He moved quickly, checking the shields, adjusting energy outputs, and reinforcing the station's defenses. Nira guided him, suggesting adjustments based on her knowledge of the scouts' technology. But it was Milo's ingenuity that turned the tide. He combined human engineering with the limited alien tech he had seen in Nira's belongings, creating defenses the scouts did not expect. The storm intensified. Lightning-like energy arcs flashed through the red sky, illuminating the strange forms of the scouts. They were fast, precise, and persistent, but Milo remained calm, thinking several steps ahead. He had spent years learning to adapt to Rini's harsh conditions. Now, that experience counted for more than ever. Suddenly, a pulse of energy hit the station, causing a brief blackout. Milo's heart raced as the lights flickered back on. The scouts were testing the station's limits. "We can handle this," Nira said. "But you must stay focused. Your mind, your creativity. It's your greatest weapon." Milo nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. He moved faster, adjusting energy shields, rerouting power, and creating temporary barriers with materials from the station's storage. Each move was deliberate. Each adjustment made the station stronger against the scouts' probes. Hours passed, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. The scouts hovered, shifting positions, analyzing every vibration, every energy pulse from the station. Milo noticed something remarkable. They were cautious. They were curious but hesitant. Perhaps they had underestimated human resilience. "I think they're learning," Milo said, excitement rising in his voice. "They're reacting to my adjustments." Nira smiled faintly. "Yes, humans are unpredictable. That is why you survive. That is why you excel. Never forget that." Milo felt a surge of pride. Here he was, on a tiny research station on a desert planet, facing unknown alien scouts during a violent storm. And yet, he was keeping the station safe. He was adapting. He was proving, in his own small way, that human intelligence and ingenuity could match forces far beyond their planet. As night fell, the storm finally began to lose its intensity. The scouts hovered a little higher now, then slowly moved away, disappearing into the dark horizon. Milo watched them leave, heart still racing, yet filled with a sense of achievement. "They left," he whispered. "They did," Nira said. "But remember, this was only a test. Others may come. Some may not be as cautious. But humans, you have survived this because of your mind, your creativity, your courage. That is rare in the galaxy." Milo nodded, understanding for the first time what she meant. It was not just strength that mattered, not just technology. Humans had something unique, the ability to think, to improvise, and to face the unknown without giving up. The storm had tested them, and humans had passed, exhausted but exhilarated. Milo looked at Nira. "Thank you for helping me understand." She smiled. "You did this yourself. I guided, but you acted. That is what humans do. That is why you are remarkable." Milo looked out over the desert. The red sands lay calm, the stars beginning to shine above. The storm was over, but the memory of it, the energy pulses, the scouts, the test would stay with him forever. And deep inside, Milo knew this was only the beginning. The desert was quiet the next morning, the storm a memory. Though the ground still bore deep scars from the furious wind, Milo walked outside, feeling the sun's heat on his face. While Nira examined the station's instruments, there was a calm, almost gentle hum in the air, but Milo could still sense the residual energy from the storm. "Something is not right," Nira said suddenly, her eyes on a small device she had placed on the control table. The device was unlike anything Milo had seen: shimmering panels, glowing circuits, and intricate designs made it seem alive. "What is it?" Milo asked, leaning closer. "It's part of my ship," Nira replied. "It was damaged during the storm. I need to repair it before I can leave." Milo's eyes widened. Repair alien technology? This was far beyond anything he had ever done. The circuits and energy flows did not follow the rules of human machines. But looking at Nira's calm confidence, Milo felt a spark of determination. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they had adapted. "Let me try," he said. "I might not know your tech, but I can figure it out." Nira studied him closely. "Very well, I will guide you. But remember, your creativity and adaptability are your strongest tools. Don't rely on my instructions alone." Milo nodded and began examining the device. The first challenge was the energy matrix, a grid of lights and pulses that shifted. Unpredictably, he studied the patterns, noting which circuits reacted together, which signals repeated, and which pops were unstable. "This is incredible," he murmured. "It's like a puzzle, but alive." Nira smiled faintly. "Yes, it adapts, it responds to the user. Many would fail because they cannot think beyond rigid rules. However, humans have flexibility." Milo's hands moved quickly, rerouting power through secondary circuits, creating temporary bridges where the original connections had failed. Sparks flew from the device, and the hum of energy grew. Louder, slowly, the pulses began to stabilize. "I think it's working," Milo said, eyes wide. "The grid, it's holding." Nira nodded approvingly. "Good. Now, the next step is to calibrate the energy conduits. They must harmonize with the local environment. The desert's energy is strong, but unpredictable. You will need to adjust." In real time, Milo took a deep breath. He had faced harsh conditions on Rhenes before, but this was different. It was not just survival, it was creation, adaptation, and problem-solving all at once. His hands moved with precision, making tiny adjustments, testing each change, then correcting errors. Hours passed, and Milo began to see results. The device's glow steadied, the circuits aligned, and the humming energy seemed calm and focused. Nira watched him with admiration. "You're remarkable," she said softly. "I have traveled across galaxies, seen civilizations that are thousands of years advanced, and yet your human mind finds solutions that many cannot." Milo felt a sense of pride, but he stayed focused. There was more work to do. The next challenge was the propulsion core, a small, spherical module that seemed to float above the device, connected only by streams of energy. He had to align the core with the energy grid he had repaired. "This is delicate," Nira warned. "One wrong move, and it could destabilize the entire system." Milo nodded. He studied the core, noting its responses to minor adjustments. His human instinct for problem-solving guided him. Unlike rigid machines, the core seemed responsive to intuition, trial and error, and careful observation, all things humans excel at. He made a small adjustment, and the core floated steadily. Another shift, and the energy conduit synchronized perfectly. Milo stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It's stable," he said, amazement in his voice. "It actually works." Nira's eyes glimmered. "Yes, you have done something that many would call impossible. Humans, you adapt, improvise, and excel. That is why you survive in the galaxy. That is why you are respected, even by those far beyond your world." Milo smiled faintly, feeling the truth in her words. He had never thought of humans in this way, not as clever survivors, but as beings capable of extraordinary feats. Yet, here he was, repairing alien technology that no one on Earth could understand. As he worked, Nira shared stories of her travels. She spoke of distant planets with civilizations that had mastered energy and technology far beyond human knowledge. Some were curious, some aggressive, some indifferent. Yet, in every encounter, she said, humans had something unique: unpredictability, courage, and creativity. "You are not just survivors," Nira said. "You are pioneers. You think differently. You solve problems differently. That makes you extraordinary." Milo listened, inspired. The idea that humans could compete with civilizations far older and more advanced, was thrilling. He felt a sense of responsibility, a duty to prove that humans were capable of greatness. By late afternoon, the device was almost fully operational. Milo tested each function carefully, making minor tweaks, adjusting for environmental energy flows, and synchronizing the propulsion core with the energy grid. Each step required focus, patience, and adaptability, the very qualities that Nira had praised. Finally, the device hummed steadily, glowing with a soft, steady light. Milo stepped back, exhausted but exhilarated. "It's ready," he said. Nira approached, her expression both proud and grateful. "Yes, you have done it. You humans are remarkable. I see now why stories of your ingenuity spread across the stars." Milo smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced something impossible, something beyond human experience. And he had succeeded, not through brute force or advanced technology, but through creativity, observation, and determination, the qualities that made humans special. "Thank you," Nira said softly. "Because of you, I can continue my journey, and because of you, I can show others that humans are capable of extraordinary things." Milo nodded, feeling a new sense of pride in himself and his species. For the first time, he truly understood what Nira had meant. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were innovators, problem solvers, and pioneers in a vast, unpredictable galaxy. As the sun set over the red sands of Rhenes, Milo and Nira watched the device stabilize, glowing softly in the dim light. Outside, the desert was calm, but Milo knew that beyond the horizon, the galaxy was vast and full of challenges, and yet he also knew that humans clever, adaptable, and courageous would face them head-on, ready to rise above any obstacle. For Milo, this was only the beginning. The night was calm at first, but Milo could feel an uneasy tension in the air. Even with the desert quiet, the station's sensors were alert, picking up faint energy signatures far beyond the planet's horizon. Milo had grown used to the strange phenomena of Rhenes, but tonight was different. Something was coming, and it was not a scout this time. "Nira," Milo said, eyes fixed on the screen. "There's movement more than before. Larger signatures, faster. They're approaching." Nira's expression grew serious. She moved quickly to his side, scanning the data. "Yes," she said quietly. "These are not scouts. They are warships, larger, more powerful. And they are coming toward Rhenes." Milo's stomach tightened. Warships? He had never encountered anything like this. His station was tiny, a single outpost on a barren desert planet. How could they possibly defend it or themselves against something so advanced? "Are they coming for you?" Milo asked cautiously. Nira shook her head. "No, they are not here for me. They are here for you, humanity." The scouts were observing, testing, learning. "These warships, they are the main force. They want to assess the threat humans might pose. They underestimate you. That is their mistake." Milo stared at her. We're supposed to survive this." "You will survive," Nira said firmly, "but not by technology alone. Your mind, your ingenuity will be your weapon. You must use it." Milo nodded, determination rising in his chest. He had faced impossible odds before on Rhenes, but this was different. The lives of humans, far beyond his station, might depend on what he did next. The warships approached slowly, their energy fields visible even from the sensors. They were enormous, hovering above the desert, casting shadows across the red sands. Milo could see the pulses of light traveling along their hulls, scanning, probing, and analyzing. "They're studying everything," Milo said, adjusting the station's sensors to track their movements. "They're learning from us, from me." "Yes," Nira said, "and that is why you must act quickly. You must show them that humans are not predictable. Humans adapt, humans survive. That is what will save your species." Milo's mind raced. He scanned the station's inventory, thinking of every tool, every spare part, every scrap of metal that could be used to defend themselves. He began constructing improvised defenses, energy shields reinforced with metallic plates, makeshift barriers, and systems to confuse or redirect the warship's sensors. Every move was calculated, every adjustment precise. This is insane, Milo muttered to himself. But it has to work. Nira guided him, suggesting ways to integrate the alien technology he had repaired with the station's systems. She showed him how to channel energy pulses in patterns the warships would not expect, and how to exploit weaknesses in their scanning systems. Milo's hands moved quickly. Combining his human intuition with the alien technology, hours passed. As the warships hovered closer, their presence a silent, intimidating force, yet Milo did not panic. He relied on what he had learned from years on Reni's: observation, adaptation, and problem-solving. Humans could survive by thinking differently, by turning ordinary tools into extraordinary weapons. Finally, the first probe struck the station's shields. A pulse of energy shook the walls, rattling panels and making alarms blare. Milo held his ground, adjusting the defenses and rerouting power. Sparks flew, but the station remained intact. "They're testing us," Nira said calmly. "They want to see how you respond. Keep your focus. Do not let fear control you." Milo gritted his teeth. He thought quickly, improvising new defenses and predicting the warship's attacks. Each pulse of energy from the attackers was met with an unexpected response. Shields shifted, barriers moved, and the station seemed to almost anticipate the strikes. "This is working," Milo whispered, astonished. I can keep them off." Nira nodded. "Yes, your creativity is unmatched. That is why humans survive. That is why humans are respected." The warships continued their assault, but Milo's human ingenuity proved stronger than they expected. He created patterns of energy reflection, misdirection, and temporary traps. The attackers adapted, but Milo adapted faster. His mind was alive with possibilities, each one an unpredictable solution to the warship's strategies. Ours turned into a tense battle of wit and engineering. The warships were formidable, but they had underestimated the resourcefulness of a single human on a desert planet. Milo moved tirelessly, guided by instinct and intelligence, creating new solutions faster than the attackers could respond. Finally, as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the warships began to retreat. They hovered for a moment, analyzing, before disappearing over the edge of the desert. Milo watched, exhausted but triumphant. "They left?" he asked, disbelief and relief mingling in his voice. "They did," Nira confirmed. "And they have learned something important. Humans are not simple. Humans adapt. Humans are unpredictable. That is why you survived. That is why humanity will continue to survive." Milo sank into a chair, breathing heavily. The battle was over for now, but the memory of it would stay with him forever. He had faced forces far beyond human technology and survived, not through strength alone, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and determination, the qualities that made humans extraordinary. Nira stood beside him, smiling. "You see, Milo, your mind is your greatest weapon, your creativity, your courage, and your ability to think differently. That is what makes humans remarkable in the galaxy." Milo nodded slowly. "I understand now. Humans, we can face anything, even the stars themselves." Nira's eyes glimmered with admiration. "Yes, and remember this. One human can make a difference. One mind can turn the tide. Never underestimate yourselves." As the sun rose over the calm red desert, Milo looked out from his station, feeling a new sense of pride. Humanity was small, fragile, and untested, but it was clever, courageous, and capable of greatness. Today, Milo had shown that humans could face forces far stronger than themselves and prevail. And this was only the beginning. The desert of Reni's was eerily quiet. The warships had retreated beyond the horizon. But Milo knew that the threat was not gone. They had tested him, studied the station, and now they would return with more force. The thought of another attack was terrifying, yet Milo felt a growing confidence in human ingenuity. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and fearless when needed. That was their greatest weapon. Nira moved beside him, examining the station's defenses. "They will come back," she said softly. "And they may not be cautious this time. You must prepare for them." Milo nodded, scanning the station's resources. "We can use everything we have," he said. "I'll modify the shields, create decoys, and use the terrain to our advantage. They might have technology, but we have adaptability." Nira smiled faintly. "Exactly. Humans survive because you think differently. You improvise. That is why you are extraordinary." Milo began working immediately, combining human ingenuity with the alien technology Nira had brought. He created layered energy shields that could shift in unpredictable patterns, confusing sensors. He used mirrors and reflective panels to redirect energy pulses from the warships, creating illusions of a larger station. He even set up small automated drones using spare parts, programming them to move erratically and distract the enemy. Hours passed in a blur of planning, building, and testing. Milo's mind raced with possibilities. Every device, every shield, every system had to work together. He was not just defending a station. He was demonstrating the strength of humanity itself. "This will work," he muttered to himself, adjusting the final energy conduit. "They won't expect this." Nira observed him closely. "Your mind, your creativity, it's remarkable. You see solutions where others see only obstacles. That is what makes humans powerful. Not strength, not numbers, but ingenuity." By nightfall, the desert sky was filled with stars, and Milo's preparations were complete. The station hummed with energy, shields shifting, drones moving unpredictably, and the modified alien technology ready to respond. Milo and Nira waited in tense silence, and then they came. The warships returned, faster and more numerous than before. Their energy pulses lit the desert, and Milo could feel the vibrations even through the reinforced floors of the station. But Milo did not panic. He had prepared for this. Every system was ready, every trap set, every response calculated. "Stay calm," Nira said. "Remember what you've done. Remember your strength." Milo nodded. He activated the first layer of defenses. Shields shifted unpredictably, reflecting the energy beams back in confusing patterns. The warships paused, scanning, unable to predict the changes. Milo's improvised drones moved erratically, further confusing the attackers. "They're reacting, but they can't figure it out," Milo whispered, excitement and tension mingling in his voice. Nira's eyes glimmered. "Yes, humans adapt, humans overcome. That is why you are extraordinary." The battle continued through the night. Each attack from the warships was met with a new human solution. Milo redirected energy pulses, created false heat signatures, and even lured some warships into areas where the desert itself interfered with their sensors. Every move was a combination of observation, creativity, and intuition, uniquely human traits that the aliens had underestimated. Hours passed, and Milo felt exhaustion creeping in. But he did not stop. He adjusted, adapted, and improvised continuously. The warships, for all their power, could not predict the unpredictable. They could not match the ingenuity of a single human mind operating at its fullest. Finally, as the first light of dawn approached, the warships began to retreat. They hovered momentarily, scanning, before slowly disappearing beyond the horizon. Milo sank into a chair, breathing heavily, sweat and dust coating his face. "They left," he whispered, hardly believing it. "Yes," Nira said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And they have learned something. Humans are not simple. Humans adapt. Humans are clever and unpredictable. That is why you survived. That is why humanity will continue to thrive." Milo looked around the station. Despite the battle, it had survived. His modifications had held, the shields had worked, and the drones had distracted the enemy. He had taken limited resources, combined them with alien technology, and outsmarted forces far more powerful than himself. He had done something extraordinary. "You did it," Nira said softly. "Not alone, but with your mind. That is what humans excel at. That is what makes you remarkable." Milo felt a deep sense of pride. He had always known humans were capable, but now he understood on a new level. Strength and technology were important, but what made humans truly powerful was creativity, adaptability, and courage. Humans could face challenges that seemed impossible, and overcome them with intelligence and determination. As the sun rose over the red sands of Rhenes, Milo and Nira stepped outside to survey the desert. The warships were gone, leaving only the quiet wind and the faint traces of their energy. Milo felt a sense of accomplishment and hope. Humanity had survived, and more than that, it had triumphed. "You've proven something important," Nira said, her voice filled with admiration. "Humans are clever, brave, and capable. Never forget that. One person, one mind, can make all the difference." Milo nodded, watching the horizon. He felt a connection not just to Nira, but to all humans. Today had been more than a battle. It had been a demonstration of what humans could achieve when they relied on their intelligence, their courage, and their creativity. "This is just the beginning," Milo said quietly to himself. "Humans can face anything." Nira smiled. "Yes, and remember, Milo, you are part of a larger story now. Humans are no longer just on this planet. They are becoming known across the stars for their ingenuity and determination. And you have played a part in that story." Milo looked at the desert, the calm wind brushing against his face. He felt proud, inspired, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Humans had survived against impossible odds, and today they had triumphed. For the first time, Milo truly understood the words Nira had said before. Humans were extraordinary, and nothing, not even the most powerful alien warships, could take that away. The desert was calm once again. The sun rose slowly over Rhenes, casting long shadows across the red sands. Milo stood outside the station, feeling the warmth on his face and the quiet of the planet surrounding him. The storm was gone. The warships had retreated, and for the first time in days, Milo allowed himself to breathe. Nira moved beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "They will not return soon," she said quietly. "They have learned what humans are capable, and you have proven yourself." Milo smiled faintly, still tired but filled with pride. "It's hard to believe we survived. Hard to believe I actually did what needed to be done." "You didn't just survive," Nira said. "You thrived. You adapted, improvised, and overcame challenges that no one thought possible. That is the human way. That is why humans are extraordinary." Milo looked out across the desert. The memories of the storm, the scouts, and the warships lingered in his mind. He remembered the fear he had felt, the tension, the moments of uncertainty. But he also remembered the determination that had driven him, the creativity that had turned limited resources into powerful defenses, and the courage that had kept him moving forward. "You're leaving now, aren't you?" Milo asked, his voice quiet. Nira nodded. "Yes, my mission here is complete. I must continue my journey. But I will not forget what I have seen. I will tell others about humans, their ingenuity, their courage, their ability to face the unknown and prevail." Milo felt a mix of sadness and pride. He had grown used to Nira's presence over the past days. Her guidance, her calm wisdom, and her faith in his abilities had meant more than he could put into words. Yet, he understood. Humans were known now, across the stars, for their extraordinary potential. And Nira's journey would carry that story further. Before departing, Nira approached the station's main console. She touched a panel, and a small holographic projection appeared, a map of nearby star systems, some marked with symbols Milo did not recognize. "This is for you," Nira said, her voice steady. "Advanced technology, navigation systems, and knowledge that can help humanity. Use it wisely. Protect it, learn from it, and continue to grow." Milo reached out, awed by the gift. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," Nira replied. "Act, learn, adapt. Humans have a rare gift, the ability to take knowledge and make it their own. That is more valuable than any technology I could give you." Milo nodded, understanding the weight of her words. This was more than a gift. It was a responsibility to ensure that humans continued to rise, to prove that even in the face of overwhelming odds, their ingenuity and determination could overcome anything. The ground beneath the station hummed lightly as Nira activated her ship. Milo watched as the sleek craft lifted into the sky, shimmering against the rising sun. Her presence had been brief, but her impact was lasting. She had shown him the strength of human intelligence. And now she was leaving him to carry that lesson forward. As the ship disappeared into the sky, Milo returned inside the station. He studied the new technology, exploring its functions, learning its systems, and imagining how it could be used to protect humans in the future. Every sensor, every tool, every piece of alien technology was a puzzle waiting to be understood, and Milo felt ready for the challenge. He looked out the window again, watching the desert stretch endlessly. The scars of the storm were still visible, but the landscape had returned to its calm, serene state. Milo thought about the storm, the warships, and the scouts. He thought about how humans had survived, not because of strength or weapons, but because of their minds. Humans were clever, adaptable, and courageous. They could face challenges no one else could imagine. They could find solutions where others saw only obstacles, and they could rise, time and again, to meet the unknown with determination and hope. Milo smiled faintly, feeling a surge of pride. He was just one human, alone on a distant desert planet, but he had proven something important. He had proven that humans were not simple or weak. They were extraordinary. He activated the station's communication system, sending a signal back to Earth. The message was simple, but powerful. Humans had survived. Humans had overcome, and humans would continue to thrive, no matter what challenges the universe presented. Hours passed, and the desert turned from red to gold under the afternoon sun. Milo worked diligently, studying the new technology and preparing the station for the future. Every discovery reminded him of the lessons Nira had taught him: the value of observation, the power of creativity, and the importance of courage. And as night fell over Rhenes, Milo stood outside once more. The stars shone brightly above, endless and full of possibilities. He thought about the future, about humanity, and about the unknown challenges that awaited them across the galaxy. We can face anything, he whispered to the night sky. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We triumph. Milo's eyes shone with determination. He had learned that survival was not enough. To be human was to excel, to rise above, and to show the galaxy what they were capable of. And he would carry that knowledge forward, guiding humanity toward a future full of possibilities, hope, and courage. The desert was quiet again, but Milo knew that the galaxy was vast and full of unknowns. And yet, he was no longer afraid. Humans had survived, humans had triumphed, and humans would continue to rise. As he looked toward the stars, Milo felt a deep sense of purpose. Nira had gone, but her lessons remained. Her faith in human potential was a fire that would never extinguish, and Milo knew that humanity, with its courage, creativity, and intelligence, would continue to shine brightly among the stars. For Milo, for humanity, and for the future, this was only the beginning. Romy wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the solar panels on the roof of the small research outpost. The desert winds of planet Solara whipped around him, carrying tiny grains of gold and sand that clung stubbornly to his suit. It had been a long day of repairs and maintenance, but he didn't mind. Romy liked being alone out here. The silence of the planet gave him space to think, and the stars above were like friends who never judged. He was tightening a bolt when he noticed a small dot in the distance. At first, he thought it was just a sand swirl, but it moved with purpose. Frowning, he grabbed his binoculars and focused. A small figure walked toward the outpost, carrying a simple backpack and a bundle of supplies. ROM, I raised an eyebrow. Visitors were extremely rare on Solara. Most travelers avoided this planet because of the harsh winds and lack of resources. Yet, here was someone, walking straight toward him. When the figure came closer, Romy could see it was a young woman. Her hair was dark and pulled back in a simple braid. She had bright eyes that reflected both curiosity and determination. She stopped a few meters from the outpost and raised a hand in greeting. "Hello," she called over the wind. I hope I'm not intruding. My name is Nira. Could I stay for one night?" Romy squinted at her. He could see she was exhausted, and the storm clouds gathering on the horizon made him hesitate. Normally, he would refuse visitors. The outpost wasn't designed for extra people, and he preferred solitude. But the worry in her eyes was hard to ignore. "Just one night?" he asked, adjusting his visor to protect his eyes from the sand. "Yes," she replied, nodding. "I was caught in the storms on the northern dunes. I can leave first thing tomorrow." Romy studied her for a moment. Something about her seemed different, not threatening, not strange, just aware. She moved carefully, as if she had experience surviving in harsh environments. He nodded slowly. "All right," he said finally. "One night, but just one." "Thank you," she said, relief washing over her face. She adjusted her pack and started toward the outpost. Inside, the outpost was small but functional. There were two main rooms, a lab with sensors and computers, and a living area with a small kitchen and sleeping quarters. Romy gestured toward the small cot beside the wall. "You can sleep there," he said. "I'll make some food." Nira smiled faintly. "I don't need much, just water is fine." Romy nodded and set about preparing a simple meal. As he moved, he couldn't help noticing how carefully Nira placed her things, keeping them neat and orderly. There was a quiet discipline about her, and it intrigued him. After a few minutes, the storm outside began to intensify. The wind howled like a living thing, rattling the windows and sending sand scraping along the walls. Nira walked over to the small window and pressed her hands against it. "Strong storm," she said softly. "You don't see this often." Romy shook his head. "Most people avoid Solara entirely. The storms can be dangerous." "I can see that," she replied. "I've traveled through many places. But this one, it feels alive, powerful." Romy studied her. There was something in her voice that suggested she had seen far more than the average traveler. He felt a small spark of curiosity. Who was she, really? Dinner was simple, rehydrated vegetables and protein packs. They ate in silence at first, listening to the wind battering the outpost. Romy felt a small tension in his chest. He wasn't used to having company, especially someone like Nira. Yet, the presence of another person also brought warmth he didn't expect. "Why are you here alone?" Nira asked after a while, her voice calm but inquisitive. "I like solitude," Romy admitted. "I'm here to maintain the outpost, monitor the planet, make sure everything works as it should." Nira nodded. "It's important work. Someone has to do it." She looked around the small room, her eyes lingering on the screens displaying data from the outpost sensors. "You've done a good job. This place is well kept." Romy shrugged. "It's my home. I take care of it." For a while, they didn't speak. Outside, the storm raged. The wind picked up, and the small building groaned under its force. Yet, inside, the small light from the ceiling and the warmth from the heating system made it feel safe, almost cozy. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. A soft hum filled the room, strange and almost musical. Romy frowned and walked to the control panel, checking the sensors. "What is it?" Nira asked, stepping closer. "I don't know," Romy admitted. "The storm shouldn't affect the power like this." He tapped a few buttons, trying to stabilize the readings. The hum grew louder for a moment and then stopped, leaving an eerie quiet. Nira tilted her head. "Listening. Interesting," she said softly. "It's almost like the planet itself is talking." Romy turned to her. "Talking?" She nodded slowly. "Sometimes planets have signals we can't understand. Not dangerous. Just signals trying to communicate." Romy frowned. He had never considered that. Solara had always seemed empty, silent, and harsh. Could there really be messages hidden in the winds and sands? The night deepened. Romy showed Nira the small sleeping area, but she declined, choosing instead to sit by the window and watch the storm. "I can't sleep yet," she said quietly. "There's something about the storm, about this planet. It feels alive. I want to understand it." Romy watched her for a moment, feeling a strange mix of caution and fascination. He wanted to ask more questions, to know why she had come so far and why she stayed so quietly observant. But the hum of the storm and the shifting sands outside reminded him that Solara demanded patience. Finally, he returned to his own cot, leaving Nira at the window. As he drifted into sleep, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. This wasn't just a traveler passing through. Nira's presence, her calm confidence, and her curiosity hinted at something bigger, something he didn't yet understand. And outside, the storm continued to rage, as if marking the beginning of something extraordinary.